My name is Emily Carter, and until last Tuesday night, I believed my marriage was imperfect but real. I was still at my office downtown, finishing a client proposal I had promised would be delivered before midnight. The city lights outside the window blurred into soft lines of gold as I rubbed my tired eyes and checked the time. It was almost 8 in the evening. Jason was supposed to be on a business trip. Seattle, he said. 3 days. Important meetings. He kissed my forehead that morning and told me not to wait up. I picked up my phone to send him a quick message. Just something simple. Did you eat? Did the meetings go well? I missed him even after 6 years of marriage. The message showed unread. Out of habit more than curiosity, I opened social media while waiting for the elevator. I scrolled past ads, recipes, vacation photos. Then my screen stopped. There was my husband. He was standing under an arch of white flowers, dressed in an ivory suit, smiling the way he used to smile at me. Beside him was another woman in a wedding dress, her hand resting proudly on his arm. Behind them stood his entire family, his mother, his cousins, his aunts and uncles. Everyone smiling, everyone celebrating. The caption read, "My son finally chose happiness. Welcome to the family." In that moment, the noise of the office disappeared. The elevator doors opened and closed, but I did not move. I stared at the photo again and again, hoping my eyes were lying. They were not. While I was working late to pay for the life we shared, my husband was marrying his mistress, and everyone knew. That was the night my marriage ended, and the night something else began. Before that night, I would have told anyone that my life was stable. Not perfect, not romantic like in the movies, but steady, built on effort and shared responsibility. Jason and I had been married for 6 years. We met in our late 20s, when we were both still trying to prove ourselves. He was charming, confident, and ambitious. I was practical, disciplined, and focused. We seemed to balance each other. From the outside, we looked like a successful couple. A beautiful home, reliable cars, family holidays, dinners with his relatives where I always brought gifts and smiled through polite conversations. I learned early on that his family valued appearances, so I tried my best to fit in. Financially, I carried most of the weight. I never said it out loud, but I paid the mortgage, handled the investments, and covered the emergencies. Jason earned well, but his income disappeared quickly into lifestyle expenses, golf memberships, upgraded gadgets, generous spending when friends were watching. I did not resent him for it, at least not then. I believed marriage was teamwork. When one person could carry more, they did. I worked long hours, climbed steadily in my career, and told myself it was temporary. That once things settled, we would slow down together, start a family, travel more, enjoy what we built. Jason often joked that I was the serious one, the planner, the responsible adult. I laughed along. I thought love meant compensating for each other's weaknesses. Looking back, I see the signs I ignored. The subtle distance. The way his family praised my usefulness but never my presence. The comments about my job being too demanding, too consuming, not feminine enough. But at the time, I believed loyalty mattered more than comfort. I believed effort would be returned with respect. I was wrong. I went back to that photo again once I was in my car. This time I did not look at Jason first. I looked at the woman beside him. Her name was Natalie Brooks. I knew her face well. She worked in the marketing department of the company Jason managed. Younger, always smiling, always respectful when she saw me. The kind of woman people describe as harmless. She was wearing a white dress fitted perfectly to her body, one hand resting lightly on Jason's arm, the other holding a wedding booklet. There was no hesitation in her posture, no shame. She looked like someone who believed she belonged there. I zoomed in on the background. His mother stood closest to him, her hand on his shoulder, pride written across her face. His cousins leaned in, laughing. His aunts posed as if this were a long-awaited celebration. Fresh flowers filled the room, white and gold, carefully chosen, carefully planned. This was not a mistake. This was not a joke. This was not a misunderstanding. I read the caption again. My son finally chose happiness. Welcome to the family. Finally. That single word told me everything. This wedding had not happened suddenly. It was the result of months, maybe years of conversations I was never part of, decisions made without me, judgments passed quietly behind my back. I scrolled through the comments. Congratulations. So happy for you both. About time. She is much more suitable. We can finally look forward to grandchildren. Each line felt like a small cut. Together they formed something deeper. A realization that settled heavily in my chest. They all knew. While I was working late nights and carrying responsibilities at home, my husband was building a second life. While I was sending thoughtful messages and waiting for replies, his family was planning a wedding without me. I locked my phone and stared straight ahead through the windshield. The betrayal was not loud, it was clean, organized, approved. And that made it far more painful. I did not confront Jason that night. I needed to hear the truth from someone who would not bother lying to me. I sat in my car in the underground garage, engine off, the silence pressing in around me. My hands were steady as I scrolled through my contacts and stopped on his mother's name. Diane Miller. I had called her every week for 6 years. I had sent her birthday gifts, holiday money, monthly support she never asked for but never refused. She answered on the third ring. "Emily," she said brightly, "working late again?" Her voice sounded cheerful, relaxed, like someone enjoying a celebration. "Yes," I replied. "Where are you?" There was a brief pause, then a soft laugh. "Family gathering. Why do you ask?" "A family gathering," I repeated, "for Jason's wedding." Silence. For a second, I thought the call had dropped. Then her tone shifted. The warmth disappeared, replaced by something cold and dismissive. "Oh, you saw that already? Well, that saves time. I assumed you were too busy with your work to notice." My chest tightened, so it was true. "Why?" I asked. "Why would you do this behind my back?" "Behind your back," Diane laughed. "Emily, you did this to yourself. 6 years and no child. A woman who values her career more than her husband. Jason needs a family. He needs a future." She continued without stopping. "Natalie is already pregnant. 2 months. We did what was necessary. Better to make it legal than to let things continue in sin." Each word landed like a blunt object. "You planned it," I said quietly. "Of course I did," Diane replied without hesitation. "Natalie knows how to be a wife. She is gentle, fertile, not always chasing promotions." Then she added, almost kindly except it gracefully, "Do not stand in the way of my son's happiness." The line went dead. I stared at my phone long after the screen went dark. That was the moment I understood something clearly. They never saw me as family. They saw me as a resource. And they believed I would keep providing, even after being erased. I did not cry after that call. I sat there in the quiet garage, listening to my own breathing, feeling something inside me shift. The pain was sharp, yes, but it did not overwhelm me. It settled into a cold, focused awareness, like a fog lifting to reveal the truth of where I was standing. For years I had told myself that love meant patience, that loyalty meant endurance, that if I worked harder, gave more, stayed calmer, things would eventually balance out. But love does not require you to disappear. What Diane said echoed in my mind: useful, fertile, suitable. Those were not the words of a family. Those were the terms of a transaction. I thought about the house, the accounts, the documents I had signed alone, the assets Jason had never bothered to understand because he trusted me to handle the boring parts of life. He liked the benefits, not the structure. My father's voice came back to me, clear and steady from years ago. Never confuse generosity with obligation. Never give away your safety to someone who has not earned your trust. That night, I finally understood the difference between being kind and being careless. I had not failed as a wife. I had simply outgrown a marriage built on imbalance and entitlement. If they believed I would accept this quietly, they had misjudged me completely. I turned the key in the ignition. I was done reacting. It was time to act. I drove straight to a hotel that night instead of going home. Not because I was afraid to face the house, but because I needed space to think clearly. Emotional decisions are expensive. I had learned that lesson early in my career, and I was not about to forget it now. Once I was alone in the quiet room, I made one call. Robert Hayes had been my attorney for years. He handled my contracts, my investments, and every major purchase I made. When he answered, his voice was calm but alert. "Emily, it is late. Is everything all right?" "No," I said, "but I need you to listen carefully. I want to sell my house, immediately." There was a pause. "The house on Acacia Drive? The one valued at $15 million. "Yes, that one. I want it sold as fast as legally possible. I do not care about waiting for a higher offer. I want a clean transaction and a private account the funds will go into. No joint access. Robert did not ask why. He understood my tone. He had heard it before, in moments when decisions could not be undone. Coincidentally, he said, I have a client who has been interested in that property for some time. He prefers fast closings. If you are serious, we can move quickly. I am serious, I replied. Prepare the documents. And one more thing, I want divorce papers drafted. Strict terms. But do not file them yet. I will tell you when. Understood. When the call ended, I felt lighter, not relieved, but grounded. For the first time since seeing that photo, I was in control of something tangible. The house was not a home anymore. It was leverage. And I was about to use it. Before anything could be finalized, I needed to retrieve a few documents myself. Just after midnight, I drove back to the house on Acacia Drive. The neighborhood was quiet, the kind of silence that makes large homes feel hollow. I parked in the garage beside Jason's sports car, the one I had paid for but rarely drove. Inside, the house felt unfamiliar, not broken, not damaged, just empty. I did not turn on the main lights. I went straight to my study, the room where I had spent countless nights working while Jason slept. Behind a large abstract painting was a wall safe. Jason knew it existed, but he never knew the code. He once joked about borrowing the house deed for a business idea that never happened. I changed the combination the next day. The safe opened easily. Inside were the documents I expected, the deed to the house, my name alone, vehicle titles, investment records, everything in order. Then I saw a folder I did not recognize. It was dark blue, tucked behind my files, no label, no dust. I pulled it out and opened it. My hands went cold. It was a life insurance policy. $10 million, issued 3 months earlier. I scanned the page quickly, my heart beat loud in my ears, until my eyes landed on the beneficiary. Natalie Brooks. Listed as future spouse. The room felt suddenly smaller. 3 months ago. That was around the time Diane said Natalie became pregnant. Around the time Jason started working late more often. Around the time he insisted we update some financial documents I never questioned. This was not just betrayal. This was planning. If something happened to me, $10 million would go directly to the woman who had just married my husband in secret. I sat down on the floor, the cool surface grounding me as the realization settled in. They had not only removed me from the picture, they had prepared for my absence. I folded policy carefully and placed it in my bag. Evidence mattered now. Emotions did not. When I left the house that night, I did not take clothes or jewelry. I took proof. And I locked the door behind me, knowing I would never return as the woman I was before. That night marked the end of my role as a wife. I did not announce it. I did not write a message or leave a note. There was no dramatic confrontation, no demand for answers. Those things belong to people who still expect honesty in return. I packed a small bag at the hotel before sunrise, practical clothes, my laptop, the documents I had taken from the safe. Nothing sentimental, no photos, no gifts, no reminders of what I had once believed we were building together. On the desk, I laid out the life insurance policy and the house deed side by side. One represented everything I had worked for. The other represented how disposable I had been in their eyes. Something settled inside me then. I was not angry in the way people expect. I was calm, focused, protective of myself in a way I had never been before. Whatever affection I once had for Jason was gone, replaced by clarity. I blocked his number. I blocked his mother. I blocked every relative who had smiled in that wedding photo. Silence is not weakness, it is preparation. I was no longer responsible for smoothing things over, no longer responsible for keeping peace at my own expense. From that moment on, I was not reacting to betrayal. I was managing a situation. And I intended to finish it on my terms. Jason came home 2 days later. I knew because my phone lit up with his name, again and again, until the screen finally went dark from unanswered calls. I did not pick up. I did not read the messages. I did not need to. That afternoon, the new owner's security cameras captured everything. Jason arrived at the front gate with Natalie beside him, dragging a large suitcase behind her. The sun was high, the air heavy, the kind of heat that makes impatience turn ugly fast. He pressed the gate remote once. Nothing happened. He pressed it again. Still nothing. I could imagine his confusion turning into irritation. He knocked, then shouted, then kicked the gate. A uniformed guard stepped out of the security booth, calm, professional, unfamiliar to Jason. "Can I help you, sir?" "This is my house," Jason snapped. "Open the gate." The guard checked his tablet. "This property now belongs to Mr. Daniel Wright. The transfer was completed yesterday. You are not authorized to enter." Jason laughed sharply, the sound people make when they think someone is bluffing. "That's impossible. My wife would never sell this house without me." The guard did not argue. He simply repeated himself and asked them to leave. That was when panic set in. Natalie dropped the suitcase. Her hand went to her stomach instinctively. "What do you mean sold?" "Jason, you said this was yours? You said we would live here." Jason began shouting my name, demanding I come out, promising explanations, threatening consequences. The words blurred together into noise. Then his family arrived. His mother, 2 uncles, a cousin. They stepped out of their car ready to support him, ready to pressure me into accepting the situation they had already decided on. Instead, they found their son locked out of a house that no longer belonged to him. "Sold," Diane whispered, her face drained of color. $15 million. Gone. For the first time, no one knew what to say. They stood there on the sidewalk, dressed for comfort and confidence, suddenly exposed, not as a united family, but as people who had gambled on the wrong person's silence. And lost. They were still standing there when the delivery arrived. A motorcycle stopped at the curb, the engine cutting through the tense silence. The courier stepped off and lifted a large rectangular box from the back. It was wrapped neatly in silver paper, tied with a black ribbon, elegant, deliberate. "Excuse me," the courier said, checking his phone. "Package for Jason Miller and Natalie Brooks. Delivery address Acacia Drive." Natalie's eyes lit up for a split second. She stepped forward, forcing a smile. "Yes, that's us." Jason signed without reading. His hands were shaking. The courier handed over the box and left without another word. They gathered around it on the sidewalk, curiosity mixing with desperation. Diane frowned. "What is this? Did she send it?" Natalie bent down and noticed a small card attached to the ribbon. She picked it up and read aloud. "Congratulations on your wedding, your first gift, please open it." Her voice softened. "Maybe it's money," she said quickly. "Compensation. She knows she went too far." Jason did not answer. He untied the ribbon and tore away the wrapping. Inside was a plain black box. No brand, no decoration, just weight. He opened it. There were 2 thick envelopes inside, placed carefully on black fabric, official, stiff, each one printed on corporate letterhead. One was addressed to Jason Miller, the other to Natalie Brooks. Jason opened his first. The words blurred, then sharpened. Notice of disciplinary termination. Effective immediately, dismissal for serious violations of company ethics and financial misconduct. No severance, no benefits, all company property to be returned within 24 hours. Natalie screamed. Her envelope said the same. Terminated. Effective immediately. Cause listed. Inappropriate relationship with a superior and participation in unethical financial activity. Jason felt something collapse inside his chest. Beneath the envelopes was a final card. He picked it up slowly and read the line that ended everything he thought he controlled. "By the way, the company belongs to me. I own 90% of it. You were always just an employee." The wedding gift had been delivered. And it was only the beginning. The shouting had barely settled when the sound of sirens reached them. At first, Jason thought it was an ambulance. His mother looked pale, unsteady on her feet. But the sound did not slow. It grew closer, more deliberate. 2 police cars turned onto Acacia Drive and stopped a short distance away. The lights were on, but the sirens were not screaming. Calm, controlled, final. Officers stepped out and approached the group. One of them carried a folder. "Good afternoon," the senior officer said. "Are you Jason Miller and Natalie Brooks?" Jason felt his throat tighten. "Yes, what is this about?" The officer opened the folder. "We are here regarding an ongoing investigation into financial misconduct, including embezzlement and fraud involving Carter Design Group. Jason laughed nervously. That is ridiculous. I am the director. There must be a mistake. The younger officer continued reading. You are accused of misappropriating company funds through a shell entity registered under Natalie Brooks' name, double billing travel expenses, and using corporate accounts for personal purchases. The total amount under investigation exceeds $500,000. Natalie grabbed Jason's arm. I did not know, she cried. He told me to sign. I thought it was normal. Jason tried to step forward. This is my wife's revenge. She is trying to destroy me. That was when a black sedan stopped behind the police cars. The back door opened. I stepped out. The street went silent. I was not angry. I was not shaking. I wore a simple blouse, sunglasses, and calm certainty. Robert Hayes followed me, carrying a briefcase. I removed my sunglasses and looked directly at Jason. Which wife are you referring to? I asked quietly. The one you lied to, or the one you married in secret using stolen money? The officers turned toward me. I am Emily Carter, I said, majority owner of Carter Design Group. I filed the complaint. Robert handed the briefcase to the officer. Inside is complete documentation of the financial transfers, false invoices, and company registrations. The officer nodded after a brief glance. That was enough. Jason was handcuffed without ceremony. As he was led away, I did not smile. Justice does not need witnesses. It only needs facts. The street slowly emptied after the police cars drove away. Jason's mother sat on the curb, staring at nothing, repeating the same sentence under her breath. Everything is gone. Everything is gone. The relatives who had arrived so confidently avoided looking at each other. No one offered comfort. No one took responsibility. Natalie was taken away in silence. Her wedding dress was wrinkled now, stained at the hem, no longer symbolic of a beginning but of a mistake she could not undo. Jason did not look back. In the days that followed, the legal process moved quickly. The evidence was clear. Paper trails do not lie. Transfers, signatures, invoices, registrations. Every decision he thought was hidden had been documented. Jason tried to shift blame. He said he was manipulated, that he was pressured, that he only made poor choices out of fear. None of it mattered. Natalie claimed ignorance. She said she trusted him. But the money had gone into her account. She had spent it freely. Responsibility does not disappear with excuses. The court did not treat this as a family dispute. It treated it as what it was: financial crime. Jason was sentenced to prison. Natalie received her own sentence as an accomplice. Pregnancy did not erase accountability. There was no victory parade, no public satisfaction. Only consequences. And a quiet understanding that actions, when repeated long enough, eventually find their way into the light. 2 years passed. Not quietly but steadily. I finalized my divorce without resistance. There was nothing left to argue about. The court saw what the documents already proved: betrayal, fraud, intent. I walked away with my assets intact and my name cleared. I sold the company within the year, not because it failed, but because I no longer wanted to build something that carried the memory of deception. I chose freedom over familiarity. I moved to a smaller place overlooking the ocean, not extravagant, just peaceful, a space that felt honest. During that time, something unexpected happened. Women began reaching out to me. Former colleagues, friends of friends, strangers who had heard fragments of the story. They shared their own experiences of financial manipulation, emotional control, and quiet fear disguised as marriage. I listened. What I realized was simple. I was not unique. I was just prepared. So I created something new. A foundation focused on legal education, financial independence, and protection for women who felt trapped but did not yet know how to leave. Not charity, tools. I did not build it out of anger. I built it out of clarity. Pain taught me many things, but the most important one was this: survival is not the end of the story. It is the beginning of a better one. I want to be clear about one thing. This story is not about revenge in the way movies portray it. It is not about shouting, humiliation, or winning arguments. It is about boundaries. It is about refusing to be erased quietly. It is about understanding that love does not require you to give up your safety, your dignity, or your future. If you are listening to this and something feels familiar, I want you to remember this. Pay attention to who benefits from your silence, notice who calls your strength a flaw, and never ignore the feeling that tells you something is wrong simply because admitting it would be inconvenient. Being kind does not mean being blind. Being patient does not mean being powerless. And walking away does not mean you failed. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is stop explaining yourself and start protecting yourself. If this story resonated with you, take a moment to support the channel. Like the video, share it with someone who might need to hear it, and leave a comment telling us where you are watching from or what part stayed with you the most. Your voice matters, your story matters. And this was mine.